Our questions tonight kind of go along with the last few Ask a Witch classes, which mean that they're focused on spirit communication. How do you know that you're communicating with something? How do you believe in yourself? How do you tell the difference between sort of guesswork? I hope, I think, maybe something's happening and something actually is happening. Today's first question is, venturing into the making of a working relationship with spirits, have you found it easy or difficult to find spirits that would want to work with you on agreeable terms? So I'll go ahead and start, and then Tina is also answering today.
Yeah.
Finding spirits that want to work with me, it's hard not to trip over them.
Or at least they'll say they want to.
Right. I have occasionally referred to myself as being spirit bothered. Either, so if you're in the agnostic, questioning, seeking, atheist corner, either I am often delusional and often hallucinating, which, fair enough, I might be. Or I am often being poked and prodded and bothered and harassed by spirits, to the point where I have started tuning it out the way I try to tune out everything else. The issue is I've never been very good at that. I tend to read everything. Like as we're driving down the road, I read everything. I hear the radio playing in other rooms. I listen to conversations upstairs and down the hallway. I can be driven insane by the sound of a dripping tap, or a buzzing phone, or television static, or that horrible sound of one electronic device is sending a signal to another electronic device, but it's not actually ending, it's just that high-pitched...
Yeah.
A
cricket in another room.
Yep, that happened. We were role-playing with Alexander, and there was a cricket
in the hallway,
and it was driving me up the wall. I had to confirm that it was a cricket and where it was to be able to move on. So when I say that I try to tune out the spirits, that's about how well I manage that. It's constant. I get migraines from taking in too much information, both from the mundane and Gestalt world and the spirit world. But the question said, spirits that you would work with on agreeable terms that I would agree with. I don't find something once a year that I'm willing to work with. Like, not the way... So, okay, there is a thing that I do where I say, if you like me and you're listening and you're willing to help and you want me to get to where I'm trying to go, and it's not going to cost me anything, it's not going to incur a debt, you just want to give me help, then I will take your help. And that has occasionally fostered a long-term, more agreeable relationship, because I'll take help from whatever steps up to help in that moment.
Yeah.
But oftentimes it feels more like sometimes something's willing to give you a hand up in the same way that a casual encounter with a stranger might uplift your day, and they don't stick around.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be spirits on agreeable terms.
But that's not a long-term relationship.
No, that's a very short-term relationship.
That is like, oh yeah, I'll love you, come on. So
when we get to the second question of 3 that I'm trying to get through tonight, I'll answer the next part. But for now, Tina, did you want to answer the first of the 3 questions?
It depends on what your standards are for agreeable terms.
Okay.
You, I know, Kima, has very strict, very high standards on what she considers agreeable terms. If you are more willing to pay more for the help you receive from spirits, you will find that list of spirits who will work with you on agreeable terms greatly expanded. And just know what your prices are before you know what your agreeable terms are before you start figuring that one out, because it'll change for everyone and what they're willing to do.
Agreed. Your cat.
I know, she's gonna come join us. You're gonna see my cat soon, probably.
I don't know if I move or not.
So, okay. Before we actually move into the next one, I'm just gonna touch on this agreeable term thing. My agreeable terms move around. There are certain lines that I will not cross. Things I will not promise to pay, things I will not accept as payment, things I will not promise to do. But largely, I will agree to terms I wouldn't like for myself if it means it's going to help my child, if it means it's going to help my spouse or my students, or a client. I've paid more than I would pay for myself in these agreeable terms because it is for someone else. And it's the same thing. Okay, so you all will probably get it. I'm just guessing that some people present will get it if I say, when you buy a birthday present for someone else, you will often buy something that you wouldn't spend the money to get something like that for yourself.
You'll buy your friends nice gifts and walk around with pants that have holes in them.
Yes, exactly.
What?
I have in fact bought people things I want, like that I have wanted, and okay, I bought my father-in-law a really nice knife for solstice, because I would love to get that as a present. I would love to get that. But I have, well, in previous years, until Ian was very kind and bought me the 3 kitchen knives we own now, used not so great knives and just had to sharpen them very often.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that for me with agreeable terms with spirits, in that it's flexible. I will pay more. I will spend my spirit in ways I wouldn't spend my spirit for myself. Because things will be like, I can help you with that. And I'm like, no, that's fine. I'll take 3 years and sweat and ache through every inch of it rather than pay your price. But then something will come along when I'm dealing with a client and be like, I'll help you. And I'm like, fine.
Chiming in from off camera, this is a fundamental difference between the way you work with clients and the way I work with clients. Because
You're the one saying I'll help you.
no.
I mean, yes, but okay.
Yes. But because if something says, I'll help if I get this, I will turn to the client and say, well, I've got an offer of what you're asking for if you will pay this.
I've seen this. This is Ian and I's different. For a client, I will pay it.
Whereas you're not paying me to pay your price. You're paying me
To broker
to
the
broker
deal.
the deal.
Yeah, I've heard your explanations on this.
If what you want is for me to pay the price and get the work done, then what you're paying me goes up.
I wish you all could see him make me choke on good whiskey. He's got like the
He's definitely doing evil mastermind over there. Yeah.
glinting glasses and all. Okay.
Yeah, reflecting off his laptop.
Do you want to say anything about the agreeable terms before I move on?
No, that's about what I was going to say.
Okay. Do you go seeking these spirits out yourself, or do they find you? I kind of answered this already in that I'm spirit bothered, but I do go seeking out spirits. I will go looking for spiritual aid of a particular kind, especially because oftentimes the ones that are bothering me aren't the help I'm looking for, in the same way that cat collars aren't the help I'm looking for.
Just because someone hits on you in a bar does not mean you want them to be your long-term partner.
Well put. And one of the things that I keep seeing on Witch Blur, what a terrible portmanteau. Anyway, is this attitude that if the spirit seeks you out, that's the perfect alignment.
No.
Like if
No.
the spirit won't leave you alone,
No.
you need to listen and go along with it. And the thing is, I hear that same advice from assholes about being okay with being hit on in grocery stores.
It's a compliment.
It's a compliment. They just want you to feel good. Maybe it's fate. Maybe if you gave them a chance, it would work out really well. No, fuck that shit. No.
Maybe the person yelling to show them your tits is fate. Yeah. I don't want that fate.
No.
No.
I have the same attitude towards the spiritual community that's like, if a spirit is bothering you, you should say yes, as I do to the people who are like, if a man is bothering you, you should say yes. No.
In my experience, if a spirit is bothering you that much, they really want something from you, and you should be careful.
Also, they're already violating your boundaries. What was the comment?
I've not looked into this witch blur.
No,
Or was
I was laughing because you say they really want something from you and you should be careful, and my brain fills in, they really want something from you and that means you got leverage.
We have different brains, Ian.
See, from my perspective, they're already violating your boundaries. They're already disrespecting your autonomy.
I'm kind of more along that's like, you are getting really annoying, just go away. I do not have time or energy to deal with you and your bullshit.
When I seek spirits out, depending upon what I'm doing, I might do the lazy witches internet search.
It's like putting out a Craigslist ad in the
It
spirit
is.
world.
It
It's
is.
interesting when if you ever decide to do that, random watchers, it's interesting. It's like lining up with job interviews. Yeah.
I basically post the spirit world version of a Craigslist ad, with my sort of profile,
Help wanted.
help wanted for a witch of this nature for this job, am accepting spiritual resumes.
And willing to pay X price.
Yep, I'm very clear about what I want, what I'm willing to pay, who I am, and then I literally host interviews with my tools. Sometimes I use the tarot deck, sometimes I use the crystal ball, sometimes I just sit there and channel. Other times I will go and actually explore the spirit world following a tug. I'll say, I'm trying to find this sorry. Catherine Rainforest.
Nice. Nice.
Sometimes I go and I follow a tug to what I'm looking for.
I have not tried that method yet.
It's kind of like following a string. So it can lead you through places you have to be prepared to deal with, because it doesn't skip.
And then there's a minute. No, wait.
No, but really though. But now there's a monster or anyway, do you want to answer that one?
That was the
Do you go seeking these spirits out for yourself, or do they find you?
both. I mean, there are. Okay, I sought that one out. That one I don't actually know. Still, kind of both. I would Little Cat be considered sought me out, or I sought her out?
I think she sought you out because
Yeah.
that was one of the first seances we ever did, was you asking what is this thing.
Yeah, she was my first. I've had successful encounters with both, and unsuccessful encounters with both. Just because you go seeking something out for whatever reason, even if you feel like you're okay with the agreement you have, sometimes you will change your mind and go, nope.
Give
Nope,
yourself
nope.
outs. On
Yeah,
your
always
contracts.
have an out, and sometimes it's just like a week, 2 weeks in, it's just like, hey bro, sorry, never mind, gotta go. But yeah.
So has this been the same for all of your students, or did they have to employ different techniques early on? So I will go ahead and answer that because that's specifically for me, I guess.
Yeah, I could also explain how my techniques personally have changed over the years.
That would be great. Every single student I've had, this has changed over the years. One of the things I don't understand that I've witnessed on the Facebook witchcraft groups and the witch blur groups is where people seem to think that your process should reach a plateau where you're like the perfect witch and you never adapt from there, because
I think we haunt different spaces of Facebook and Tumblr.
yeah. Are you on the Feisty Witches of Facebook group?
No, I'm on the Bisexual Witches of Facebook. I'm in the one with that.
What? I need to join. Well, I'm not bisexual though.
Are you some flavor? You're some flavor of queer.
I'm queer, but
Yeah.
it's specifically a
No,
bisexual
it's
space.
not.
It's really not.
Okay. Because
I'll send you an invite later.
I'm
Right, I
pan
know.
romantic.
You
Okay.
are close enough.
All right. So, where was I? Okay. One of the things I've noticed is this attitude, specifically, and I'm not trying to denigrate the practice, you do you, in the sort of new age pseudo Wicca of like once you hit the Grandmaster level 12, then you have established
You are sufficiently enlightened.
you are sufficiently enlightened. And I've never hit a point in all my years of practicing since I was 6 years old, where I felt like I could just stop learning and stop evolving and stop trying out new things and adjusting my practice. And I keep seeing people advise baby witches, like, don't worry, eventually you'll get to the point where it's second nature and you don't second guess yourself, because you'll have your established routines and you won't need to vary from them. And I'm like, okay, that's both reassuring and patronizing.
That just sounds
But-
like a very boring life.
Right, also, like, I guess it's just me that I feel like varying from that is healthy. Trying new things is healthy. Maybe that's just me.
Question popped up in chat. What about spirits that, for lack of a better term, accidentally bother you? They don't need anything, nor do you, but they're just there. Does that type of interaction factor into your bits of proof?
Ooh. I will get back to that one. But yeah, every student I've had has talked about their technique varying over time. One of my students is specifically technology based. This was one of the hardest students I've ever had to teach because I am like,
You fry stuff.
I fry stuff.
Things fry in your presence.
Yeah, especially if I'm upset. And I don't do well with technology. I'm not a Luddite because I'm not scared of it. I'm not resistant to technology advancing and helping people. But I'm borderline in that I don't get along with it. They found that messages popped up through radio, the songs that came on, through words that popped up again and again and again and again. Lots of synchronicity in
get that one.
what was happening around them. But over time, this person found that spirits communicated by tugging them to watch certain TV shows, to listen to certain things, instead of it being completely random as to what came on the radio, as to words they saw on Reddit. It started to be like, come watch Trigon. Come watch Trigon. There's a special thing I want to show you. And they'd find themselves urged to skip episodes until they got to the particular episode that they would be like, oh, got
That
it.
was your point.
Message received. And it got to the point where they were doing almost anime-based divination, anime-based spirit communication, based on listening to the tug to say, come watch this, come watch this. And then they stopped needing the anime. They started being able to feel the message without the media, and stopped using the media, unless they were having trouble interpreting the message, and then they'd watch all the media they were tugged to. But generally, they stopped needing it. And a person who had completely sworn off divination and said that it never worked for them ended up using anime instead of tarot. So when people are like, oh, you have to use tarot or a spirit board or a pendulum, or it really doesn't count. I had a student use anime and it worked.
I wonder how this person would have interacted with cloud cards.
I don't know. I bought this person the steampunk tarot at one point because they liked it, but then they hardly ever used it. It just wasn't their tool.
Yeah, just like specifically from an anime. So like,
That'd be interesting.
yeah.
Okay. You said you were going to cover how yours has changed over time, and then I'll answer the question that was asked in chat.
So this was in regards to essentially like how I interact with spirits or how I search them out.
Let's say both.
Okay.
How has that transitioned? Long-term spirit communication. How has that transitioned over time?
Honestly, as I've experimented with different methods, I found different things that work, especially different things with different spirits. Like, my interaction with the spirit world is very tactile and very like, I get a lot of very physical stimuli from it. So there are a couple different kinds of sensations that I feel when specific spirits are around me and like communicating with me and stuff. And it's usually like, yeah. Anyways, so there's a lot of very physical stimuli for me, and then I started getting into different methods of divination to actually like communicate and reach out. And I actually still do that when I'm like, hey, I need to ask specific questions. Or I will do the whole meditate and like talk to them inside my inside space. And I find those to be kind of the most clear forms of communication. But yeah, as I've experimented with different kinds of things, it's just changed, but it's still very based in tactile mixture of hearing things and tactile stimulation. Unless I just like hallucinate and have random phantom sensations, which I guess is possible.
Honestly, I'm the wrong person to ask
I know.
about, is this hallucination or is this spirit communication?
Is this a
Because
phantom sensation of some sort? Or is it spirits?
I mean, you saw what happened to me yesterday.
Yeah, I did.
So-
I get messages from the music in my head.
Music in your head.
Yeah, I sometimes get emotional
So-
imprints, but it's a lot of it is physical.
Ian gets impulses. Is it okay if
Yeah, go ahead.
he'll start wanting to flip a coin over and over again when certain spirits are present. He'll start wanting to smoke a cigarette, and he'll actually like lift his hand like he's going to, and then be like, oh wait, no. One of the spirits that has harassed me all my life puts the song 420 Blackbirds in my head. And it's like slow and minor key and freaky.
I don't even know that song, but that does sound kind of terrible.
Yeah. It's awful. I don't recommend it. So I'm just going to go into it a little bit, what happened yesterday, so that you all can understand what I mean when I say that I sometimes spend a lot of hours trying to figure out what the hell is going on.
Here's a related chat question for you after.
Okay, so yesterday, well, technically yesterday evening, so not, hold on, the evening before yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
The evening before yesterday,
No, because when you heard it?
when I felt it first.
Yeah.
So evening before yesterday, as I was getting ready for bed, I took a step and felt like splinters entered the bottom of my foot. And like there were physically splinters of glass or thorns or something entering the bottom of my foot. Also, trigger warning, content warning, potentially this might be considered self-harm.
Yeah.
So
Lack of self-gentleness.
lack of self-gentleness. 30 seconds for people to know about. Was that 30 seconds or is that like 15
I don't know,
seconds?
but close enough. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I felt these splinters enter my foot, sat down with, flashlight, good lighting, tried to find them, couldn't find anything, but I could feel them when I rubbed my finger across the bottom of my foot. It felt like it was dragging on something and there was this sharp pain. So I tried all the tricks. Over the next 15 hours,
Yeah.
I slept fitfully because it felt like they were catching the blankets and hurting me. I tried baking soda. I tried flashlight and tweezers. I tried
Knife.
I tried a knife several times, only through the couple upper layers of the epidermis, not deep enough to bleed. I tried a hot bath with Epsom salts. I tried changing the water temperature. Nothing worked. I ended up spending the whole day doing all my errands, hobbling around, because these were the most painful splinters I had ever had. It was ridiculous. I, at one point earlier in my life, walked on a piece of glass and didn't notice it until my foot bled through my shoe. So for me, this is not normal to find a splinter so painful. Anyway, it got to the end of the day and I started explaining to Ian how awful it had been walking all day on this sensation of these splinters in the bottom of my foot, and whether it could potentially be some kind of a spiritual thing, like a spiritual attack. Like, am I hallucinating the splinters? Is it a phantom nerve sensation from a pinched nerve, or is something messing with me? So I tried grounding and shielding and forcing out all spiritual influences, and nothing worked. At which point he was like, wait a second, hold on. Where on your foot are the different splinters? And it turned out that it was all branching pathways of a nerve from when I'd thrown my knee out unpacking boxes, and then threw out something in my hip because I threw out my knee, because life is like that. And that each point I felt was a piece of glass or a splinter was actually a nerve that was pinched. And Ian was able to fix it, and it's been much better today. It's still there faintly, but way, way better. But I spent all day going, okay, is it spiritual? Is it physical? Is it a phantom, like, neurology thing? Is it related to fibromyalgia? Is it related to, like, what the hell is going on? And just suffering for it until one person's past history of studying nerve pathways saved my butt. And this is what I'm talking about. You sometimes wind up having, if Ian hadn't been there, I might not have found out until it either stopped on its own,
Right.
or I went in for medical assistance. Okay. So
have you ever had a student who has wholly never been able to connect with spirits?
there was a question I said I would answer before that one.
Do spirits that accidentally bother you, they don't need anything, you don't need anything, they're just there, and is that factoring a bit of proof?
Yep, there are spirits that just exist. So the question was, are there spirits that are just there?
Well,
They're not trying to communicate. Right, they're not trying to communicate with you, they just kind of exist, and they wind up being bits of proof for you. Yes, including ones that so I guess the clearest example of this is from when I was dating my first very serious girlfriend. And every time I would drive at night to her house, I would see the same thing, standing on the side of the road at a corner, and it was awful. And I thought it was just evidence that I was losing my mind progressively. And then anyone is allowed to ask a question. We ask that you keep your questions respectful. If you can't keep your questions respectful, then you are blocked and your comment is deleted. But we try to answer anyone's questions.
Yes.
The thing that I saw really freaked me out because it was so different from anything I felt like my brain would come up with. And I'll just go ahead, should I share it? It's gory.
Is it the truck one?
Yeah, the horse.
I don't know if I've heard this one.
Not the truck with the bodies. Have you heard that one?
I've heard that one.
This is a horse.
I don't think I've heard this one.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share it. It's gory. I saw a horse. So she lived on the far outskirts of Vegas, out past, for those of you who are in Vegas, she lived out past like Horizon and College. So like past the end of Lake Mead, past the one CSM campus that's all the way out there, out where it was all desert. Now they've built out that far, but when she was living there and when we were dating, there was nothing there. And at one point, to get to her house, it was the roads that are dirt, but they're like dirt roads.
Yeah.
You're not just driving on dirt, it's dirt roads. So yeah, like
Past
wagon wheel. She lived out there, and when I would drive at night, I would see a horse that was dead in a really gory fashion. Like I could see parts of its spine, its head hung at an unnatural broken angle. I could see parts of its rib cage, and it would just stand there. And I was like, I'm going insane. I am losing my grip on reality. This is ridiculous.
Did a car hit a horse there?
A truck hit a horse and basically ripped off part of its body. Like the truck hit it and tore open the spine, broke its neck, shattered part of its face.
Yeah.
And it would just be standing there. But I didn't know about the truck thing. And finally, one night I showed up at her house, and I was actually more shaken, not because of the gore, because gore tends not to bother me, but out of the absolute certainty that I was going insane. I was losing my mind. Why would my mind torture me with this horrible image? And I showed up at her house shaking and just really upset. And she took me in and she was like, what is going on? Are you okay? Are you having a panic attack? She was actually a very supportive girlfriend for the majority of our relationship. I said, I just keep seeing something when I'm coming into your neighborhood and I think I'm going crazy. And she went, is it the horse? And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah, I see it too, with the like, it's like dripping and it's gory. And I'm like, whatever. She's like, oh, a truck hit it. And I'm like, I've just spent the last like 4 months convinced I was going crazy.
Why has no one taken the time to just escort the horse along its way? Because I've done that with goats.
Well, that's what we ended up doing, is being like, hi, horsey. Do you want to go to horse heaven now?
Time to go. Time to keep moving.
But it wasn't trying to hurt me. It wasn't torturing me. But it definitely was one of my bits of proof of like, someone else sees this.
Yeah.
This is a known thing that happened in this neighborhood.
Yeah, there were things that I saw that both people that I lived with at that one point in time also saw. Like there was a little girl on the tree in front of our house at one point in time.
I have a tree one.
But she was like swinging on it or something, but she was just kind of there sometimes. She chilled.
And this is a good example of I've seen things that I found no bits of proof for. There was a farm that I would visit in Vegas periodically to help out with the harvest at, in order to distribute the food to people. Basically, the farm kept a share of it. A share of it went to Haven Craft, and we would distribute it to people. Every time I went to this farm, I saw a body hanging from a noose in a tree. And I never found any validation for that. I Googled it, I Foxfire searched it, I put the address in the Las Vegas obituary search. Nothing. Nobody else saw it. At least nobody mentioned it to me.
Let's be honest, farms can just be really creepy and just have weird stuff going on.
Yeah, and this was on the far other side of Vegas. This was in North Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Basically before you hit Tule Springs, but right at the edge of Vegas.
Yeah. Farms, especially in places where there should not be farms, get weird. There was a question that it's not really related, but we should probably answer that one because I feel like that may be an important one to answer just quickly.
Absolutely. You can still practice on high dose medication. Without knowing what medications, I can't tell you what you might mistake as spirit communication is actually a side effect of medication, or a side that your medication is not working adequately.
Yeah.
But I've had students on antipsychotics. I've had students on a broad range of antidepressants. I've had students on anti-anxiety medications, on epilepsy medication. I firmly believe that the practice of witchcraft is open to absolutely everyone, but you do have to adjust your practice. So there are certain things that, like in herbalism, you shouldn't ingest.
Yeah.
You shouldn't smoke. You shouldn't combine certain anti-epilepsy medicines with psilocybin. You shouldn't
Check your contraindications.
check your contraindications. And I could give examples until I was blue in the face, but it's going to vary per individual, per medication, per condition.
And the idea that if you are on medication for whatever condition that you have, like being on that means you cannot do magic is an outright lie. And
I've seen that one.
It is ableist bullshit.
I've seen the one that says that if you're on antipsychotics, you can't practice witchcraft because the divine can't communicate with you.
Bullshit.
Bullshit. We have students, I'm not going to name names. I have a student who went on antipsychotics and actually for the first time in this person's life was able to tell the difference between what their mind created in terms of spirits that were trying to talk to them and spirits that were trying to talk to them externally. Yeah.
Like,
if anything, this whole idea that if you stay off med, you're a better artist, better witch, better creator, it's ableist bullshit, like you said, but it's also ahistorical. Don't let them fool you about Van Gogh. Where
Van Gogh,
he created far more paintings on med than off.
Yeah.
And I am sure that someone can come up with a counterexample, and
There's-
that's fine.
Always a counter example to make the definition. That's probably not how that phrase goes, but there's a general gist
No,
of it.
I know what phrase you're going for, and the fact of the matter is, just because it worked better for one person out of thousands doesn't mean that you're the second one.
One of the
Every brain is
things,
different.
every brain is different. One of the things I keep saying is like, oh, but you will make more valuable things if you suffer for it.
Nope.
You are valuable, not just for what you create, but because you yourself are valuable, and the life you will lead and all the lives you'll touch with that life are far more valuable than one short life full of lots of things that can be sold. Don't make rich people money off your grave.
Yeah.
Okay. There was a question. Have you ever had a student who has wholly never been able to connect with spirits? Oh yeah. I've had students that absolutely have no perception of the dreamlands, of the realms between, of the astral, or of any spirits. I've had students who just wanted to learn herbalism. I've had students who were atheist and were like, nope, none of that is real. I refuse it. I will have no interaction with it. And that's fine. Like, witchcraft is a craft that is practiced by witches. Nobody gets to tell you how to witch or what kind of witch you should be. There is no witch pope. You cannot be excommunicated because you witch a different way than they want you to witch. And there's so many different things that fall under the craft.
Which is the best witch?
There is no best witch. And be yourself, figure out a witchcraft that works for you, and you don't have to have long-term, short-term, or any spirit communication to validate your practice. Okay.
There was.
Can you speak on how to find potential guardians in a sea of billions of spirits?
It's like job interviews, but more of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, put out a very, very, very specific spiritual Craigslist ad. Like, I find an easy way to do it is write down your specifications and what you want to pay and the kind of
get
deal
a
you
second
want,
and third opinion on that. You know,
Yeah,
get
yeah.
somebody to look at it for loopholes.
and then burn it.
Somebody like
Yeah. And then do the whole like, I set this on fire and let the smoke carry it to the ether and blah.
that has found me a couple of
Yeah.
the guardians that I use.
I don't get it. I don't get guardians.
No, that's
And
okay.
that's okay.
But the two guardians that have served me the longest and most, I don't want to denigrate my other guardians by praising the two that have.
Most closely.
Oh, thank you. They've served me the most closely. Well done. Okay. I didn't find that way. One of them showed up and was persistent. But persistent in a way that's different than being catcalled and harassed. Persistent in, I don't know how to explain the difference between something that harasses you and bothers you and won't leave you alone and won't take no for an answer, and something that genuinely wants to help you.
Would it be more like a very dangerous cat bringing bloody corpses to your door and being like, here, I help. Boop.
Not wrong though. I mean, like, one of the first things that T did for me to really be like, no, really, I'm useful, was to take out something that had been harassing me and bothering me and be like, ta-da! So, yeah, they are kind of like cats. Actually,
Or Studio Ghibli characters.
that was an entheogenic experience that I was not expecting.
Yeah.
I had a fortified entheogenic wine in doses that were normally fine for me, but my tolerances had changed based on some medication that I had changed, which bad herbalist I didn't think of until I'd had my third goblet and was in a bath and was like, whew, I am not okay. And so I got out of the bath and I wandered into my bedroom and there was a panther. There was a panther. Then I was like, there's a panther in the bedroom, and yet I am not afraid. And not like the vague impression of a panther or a spirit that feels like a panther. I mean, like there was a panther. I was like, hello, panther, on my laundry pile. Hi, why? And it opened its mouth, and out came one of the voices of my guardian, and was like, you should probably go tell Ian that the wine is affecting you differently. And I'm like, I've never seen you this way before.
Pro tip, the sweet Marsala from Trader Joe's, like a $5 bottle of Marsala from Trader Joe's, that's some good shit.
Yeah, it's called Encanto, which I giggled over for like 6 months after this.
There was a question on what do we mean when we say what you want to pay in regards to making a contract with spirits.
So I do agree with Lydia. With part of the answer, they will take a payment no matter what.
Yeah.
And I also disagree. And this is complicated. There are some guardians where my payment is that I do the job I swore I would do.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to give sort of a medieval example. Say that you are a liege lord and you have noblesse oblige for your people. And you say, I will protect and provide for my people. And while I protect and provide for my people, my knights will guard me. If you stop protecting and providing for your people, and then your knights are like, no, fuck you, we're going to skewer you now, you failed to pay the price. You didn't pay what you were supposed to. It isn't always, and this is where I do and do not, yes, Lydia, there are some guardians that I straight up pay. There is a price I pay for their services. And you can consider that mercenary if you want to. We have our arrangement and it works for all parties, at least knock on wood, it's working so far. And then there are guardians that I paid by doing the job. And when I slack off on the job, they go like, I'm putting her off camera. Are you gonna do your job? Are you gonna do your job? And then I'll start doing the job again. Did you have an answer?
Doing work takes energy. So usually if they're going to do something for you, they kind of, just as you should not expect anyone to do unpaid labor, don't expect spirits to do unpaid labor for you. Because that is called slavery, my friend.
And like Lydia is sort of, I think, dancing around. If you are good friends, then you will always pay them for their work.
Yeah.
Like, just because your friend's an artist doesn't mean you can expect free artwork.
Exactly.
Just because your friend is a guardian doesn't mean you can expect free guarding.
Yeah, we all gotta eat, so
But-
feed your guardians.
Also, if you have a good relationship with your friends and or your spiritual guardians, then there should be an energy exchange. When you go out with your friends, sometimes you buy coffee, and sometimes they buy coffee, and sometimes you treat them to dinner, and sometimes they treat you to dinner, and there is that, and sometimes it's not even monetarily, it's an energetic exchange.
There's also the equivalent of the pizza and beer move.
Yeah, the pizza and beer move. Yeah. where they're doing a lot of labor, so you make sure they're fed. A lot of the time, a guardian contract is like, you will do the labor and I will make sure you have something to eat. I will make sure you have a safe place to stay. I will make sure that I at least thank you for your efforts. And there is an energetic exchange. When you're good friends with someone, you will occasionally listen to them. They can advise you on the path that you are taking. One of the things I've promised my two closest guardians is that when they feel I am walking the path in a way that will shorten the path to my goal, but potentially shorten it right into a grave, I'll listen. And that's part of the payment. Additionally, there is that give and take where sometimes you listen to them and help them, and sometimes they listen to you and help you. Let's see.
Okay. Sorry,
So,
Veron?
So
Okay.
there's also something else to note here, which is that not all prices are immediately obvious.
Correct.
As an example of myself as a manipulative bastard, if someone comes to me wanting to know how to get something done, and there is another thing that I want done, and I know that a way that will work for them will get the thing that I want done as well, then I'll just tell them to do it that way. And I get something out of it, and there was no obvious price asked or paid, but I'm taking advantage of the work that you're doing that I told you how to do, and I'm just sort of getting something out of that over here on the back end, and it's fine. But there's not always...
You are so slippery. And I love it, and I admire it. It's just not how I practice at all.
But what it means is that in any given situation, I almost prefer the open, honest exchanged prices, because if not, I get to try and figure out the angles.
But you like figuring out the angles,
Yes,
don't lie.
I mean, I do. But there's always an angle somewhere. It's very rare that anyone, human, spirit, just all, whatever, doesn't have some kind of an angle, even if that angle is, I think that you doing this thing would be for the best for everyone. That's still an angle.
It's still an angle. And I mean, that's definitely like T and S's angle is, I think that you need to be doing this thing.
The other thing that I wanted to mention with Guardians in particular is that Guardians are all slightly insane in one particular way, which is that like half of what they really want is the opportunity to be good guardians for someone that they can be proud of guarding.
Right, the whole thing is I want to be proud of my service. I want to feel that there was an honor in my labor. I want to feel like I am protecting someone who is worthy of protecting, at least the guardians that I have collected. Let's see, one of the questions I've been asked is, what kind of gifts can you give spirits with whom you have a long-term relationship? Okay, so I'll give one example. Voluntary possession is one of the things. Ooh, okay, so we're almost out of time for this evening. Any questions we don't get to, we'll pick up next week.
I'm starting to flag.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have given voluntary possession. So the standard offerings, you know, they have a space where I give them treats, whiskey and cigars and things. But one of the things I've given is voluntary possession. I let them do things with my body.
Which can be as ridiculous as going to the mall wearing body butter.
Yes. I don't know if you could hear Ian, but I hate the mall. I hate it. There's too many people, there's too many smells, there's too many fluorescents, there's too many signs to read. I can't actually not read the signs. And I wind up having a migraine and probably a panic attack. One of my guardians loves the mall. I don't know what the hell went wrong there, but one of my guardians, who we will call C, loves the mall and loves shopping. And one of the fun things is that I'm like, hey, C, want to do a lot of my shopping for me? And he will go and do all my makeup shopping. He's also better at picking out colors than I am, which is weird because I'm an artist and he isn't.
2 words, body glitter.
Yeah, he also really likes glitter, and I can't stand the sensation of glitter on my skin. I swear I can feel it blocking my pores. So he likes to go to the mall and get to wear glitter. And that's like his price is the crappy mall coffee shop and getting to go to the chocolate counter and getting to do my shopping. And it benefits both of us because I hate doing the shopping, but it has to be done anyway. So about once a year around Christmas time, I give this guardian a list and he goes to the mall for me and we're both paid.
And your body's the one that fucking exhausted at the end of it, which is
Yeah.
part of why it's priced.
Yeah.
Milk with a little bit of blood is a good one.
I share a meal. Yeah, like sometimes I will go and I will cook myself a meal with 2 or more, with a good couple of portions, and I will have a plate for me and a plate for everyone I work with, and we'll have a meal together.
Do you ever combine that with voluntary possession? Because like S likes to eat with my mouth.
I am not good at possession yet, or at least voluntary possession. I have
Sorry, that was a reaction to noises from another room.
I have severe problems still with letting go of control of my body. I am.
And that's fair.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to.
I'm working on it. I am making very slow progress.
If you choose to. This is
Yeah.
not me pressuring you. I was just asking.
I still want to be able to do it someday. I also have a couple spaces within myself where I have made room for a couple of my very closest guardians, where because I travel so much and have not always been able to have a physical altar space for them, wherever I am, there is always a space at least within me where they can go and retreat.
That is excellent. I have something similar for one of them because he doesn't like Earth at all. Yeah. He doesn't even want to come here long enough to collect an offering.
Yeah.
So, yes, Riley, I could do a class on voluntary spirit possession. We can actually touch on that on the next Ask a Witch. It won't be a thorough class on it, but we can talk about it as part of long-term spirit communication.
I can talk